Hi, this is Laureen, and I'm doing another video. Um, it's been an interesting 2 weeks, to say the least. So first, what I'm going to do is just clear, center, and balance my energy, and then I'm going to get started. So I said at the beginning, the last 2 weeks have been very interesting, to say the least. And so I'm just going to start this video by talking about spiritual awakening. A lot of us during this transition right now, everybody is awakening at the same time. Some have awakened sooner than others. I've been going through it for 5 years, my whole life, but the last 5 or 6 years, just massive spiritual awakening. And I feel like there's so many people that are just being awakened, and it's very quick, that they may not really be very aware of all the things that can happen. And so I just want to share the last 2 weeks, my experience that I had specifically in the last 2 weeks. And that was, as you awaken and you become more connected to your intuition, and then you start listening to it, that knowing that comes along with it can be incredibly burdensome. And I think when I was younger, I would think, oh, being psychic is so cool, or to be psychic like that person would be so cool because they're really psychic and I'm just a little bit psychic. And so this perception of psychic abilities or telepathic communication and what that means seemed really cool. But once you start opening up, the knowing that comes along with it can be the weight of that knowing can be very heavy, and it can be burdensome. And so the last 2 weeks, actually since March, since all this coronavirus started, the knowing, witnessing and knowing has been very heavy for me. And I would say not this past week, but the week before that, it was just starting to really weigh on me emotionally. I was getting incredibly frustrated. You would see it more on my Facebook posts because those are my friends that I've known since childhood. So I would express more of my personal frustrations there, more so than on other social media like Instagram or Twitter. But it was just because this knowing of what's happening and how we're being manipulated and what the path is, knowing where we've been, where we are right now, and seeing all the different paths and seeing all the different possibilities, and knowing that was weighing heavy. And I started feeling like, why can't these people see this? Why aren't people responding? Why are people buying into this? And what happened was I started focusing in different areas and posting or talking to people about it, and what's truly happening versus what we're being told, and got a lot of resistance, and which frustrated me even more. And what happens when I start getting frustrated, or any of us start getting frustrated, and we start expressing these emotions of frustration, sadness, anger, those are emotions of a negative polarity, and that is not healthy for anybody, me or anybody else, or the collective consciousness. So I had to find perspective and rein it in, and that's one of the big reasons why I didn't do a video last week. But the message that I received for me was, stop focusing on everybody else's sole purpose. There is someone who's going to deal with the virus. There's someone who's going to deal with this push to do mail-in ballots, which is riddled with potential pitfalls and fraud, potentially. There's someone who's going to deal with all the things that are happening during this transition. I don't want to get into too much detail because I know different people have different opinions and can be put off or offended, or I don't want to increase fear. But for each area that we're suffering through, for each area that we're facing, there is someone who has a purpose in this world, in this lifetime, to address those issues, and it's not me. And so I was kind of putting this weight on myself that, oh my God, this needs to be addressed, and this needs to be addressed, and this needs to be addressed. And in many of my past lifetimes, those were my roles, is I would be the person who would be fighting that battle, and I would be the person who would be fighting this battle. And I told my friend Michael, I said, why did God make me full-blooded Puerto Rican if he didn't want me to fight? Because that's my nature. It's just, I have always defended people who can't defend themselves. I have always been there to be the voice for people who are afraid to be the voice, because I'm not afraid. I had to deal with a lot of traumas as a child, and I had to learn how to fight for myself. And so when I see someone else being manipulated or harmed in some way, I always stand up. So I said, why am I Puerto Rican if I'm not supposed to be in the fight? And the message is, this just isn't your fight. this, and this. These are not your fights. You have to step back, and you have to allow these other people who have a role to do to address these issues. Those aren't your issues to address. And so I had to reevaluate what I'm focusing on, and I had to work on recentering my energy, releasing all the frustration that I felt towards what was going on, and understand that as long as I remain clear, centered, and balanced, focused on my soul purpose, know my path, know where I've been, know where I am, and I know where I'm going, and focus on that, everything will be okay. I'm protected, I'm safe. My children are protected and safe. My loved ones are protected and safe, as long as I stay focused on my path and my purpose, and always drive forward from a place of love and light. There is no failure when actions are derived and driven from a place of love and light. So I always stay focused on that, and I always trust in that. Negative energy of a negative polarity cannot enter this space of love and light energy, of positive polarity, of balance. So I have to always stay focused on that. So as you awaken, one of the most important things for you and everybody to do is to know your past, your present, and your future. We all have to reconcile our past, negative experiences, traumas, reconcile that past, find perspective with our present. And as soon as we can reconcile those experiences, we can drive forward into our future and create the future that we want. But when we hold on to the fears or anxiety, frustrations, bitterness of the past, they influence our present. They influence how we perceive the world around us, and in a negative way. And so objectivity and perspective are paramount as we awaken. And what we're witnessing is the polarities are separating. You see a lot of people with a very negative perspective, whether it's from anger, whether it's fear, sadness, frustration. You can see those emotions on this side, or you can see people who are very accepting and compassionate and loving as we move through this transition. And so these are people who have the more positive, or people, I'm not saying they're more positive, I'm saying they're reconciling their past. They've reconciled their past experiences, the traumas, the negative things, with their present, and they've released that energy, and they're not letting it weigh on them. So they're able to move forward in a more positive polarity, from a more positive polarity. And the people who are carrying more anger, bitterness, and fear, those are responses from their past. The traumas, the fears that they experienced from their past, whether it's, I don't want to get into the specifics of what those traumas or those fears or experiences can be, but when we carry those into our present, we learn to respond to the world in that way. So, and our experiences in the present trigger those fears, those anxieties, those frustrations, and so we demonstrate those behaviors in the present. And as we hold on to that, we continue that cycle. And so the people who are continuing that cycle, they haven't been able to release that energy, will continue to move forward in a negative polarity. And all that means is that when they leave this world in this lifetime, because we all will pass, we all will leave these physical bodies behind and move to the next lifetime, they will address those issues again in the next lifetime. And they will have as many lifetimes as they need to address those fears, anxieties, frustrations, whatever those negative emotions are that they're carrying. They'll have the opportunity to address those in another lifetime if they don't reconcile them with this lifetime. And so back to the beginning, is I was kind of giving in to my own frustrations and with the situations that are occurring right now, and trying to focus on how I'm going to fix this problem, how I'm going to fix this problem, and how I'm going to fix the other problems, spreading myself way too thin, losing my focus on my own purpose, and it was affecting my emotional balance. And so I had to step back and reevaluate what was going on, release the things that were not my burden to bear, and refocus on my purpose. And so this is something that we all have to go through, and this is something that as we awaken spiritually, we will continue to face. It's not, we don't awaken and then everything's sunshine and lollipops all the time, all of a sudden. It's awakening is a ongoing process, almost for eternity, until we reach the Godhead, where we are have released the physical body and we're able to maintain this balance. But even the higher dimensional beings who are karmically intertwined with us are still releasing karma from past lifetimes, past experiences with humanity. That's part of the reason why they're here, is that they have entwined their karmic circles with ours. So even though they may be elevated in consciousness, they still have negative energy that they're working out of their karmic collective, let's say. So this process of awakening is ongoing, and as you do it more, and as you listen to your intuition, and as you move through it, you become more fluent in how to address the problems that you face, the stumbling stones that you come across, and every now and then, and it does happen, and that's how spiritual awakening works. There's a lot of highs and lows. There's a lot of smaller ones, but every now and then you'll hit a big one, and then you gotta recenter yourself and move forward. I was watching interview with ED and Georgia Jean. I can't remember the collective she channels, but she jumps out of airplanes, parachutes out of planes. And I thought that was the perfect metaphor for spiritual awakening, because you're flying, everything's great, and all of a sudden you find yourself at that door and you got to jump again, and you have to find faith and trust in your divine creator, and trust that this is part of your path. And it's a little scary, and you might make your stomach a little queasy, but as soon as you jump out and you trust, everything's okay. And that's spiritual awakening. Every now and then you got to jump out of the plane, and it's constant, but it's part of our spiritual evolution. There is physical evolution, there's DNA, but there's also spiritual evolution, and we will be going through it for eternity, and it's beautiful. So I had hit a stumbling stone a couple weeks ago, and I just had to work that out, and I just opened myself up to guidance, and I said, oh, okay, that's what I was doing. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your guidance. I will take that and I will work on it. So that's what I did. So that's the first thing. The other, and that's the second thing. And then the third thing that keeps coming to me this last week, because I actually got my energy back in the center and I started receiving messages again, because what they do is they'll stop with those downloads until you work out that issue, because they can't keep giving you information if you're out of balance and you've lost perspective. So you have to recenter yourself and find perspective, then the messages start again, the downloads will start again. And so the message that I kept on getting this last week was about race. And I've mentioned it before, my family's from Hawaii. My family's from Puerto Rico, and they went from Puerto Rico to Hawaii, and they worked sugarcane fields. But in Hawaii, a lot of different cultures came to the island to work the sugarcane fields, and a lot of Asian cultures came. Then there's Spanish, Portuguese. Then you have the Filipinos. You have the Hawaiians were there. We have the Puerto Ricans came. There's so many different races of people that came to Hawaii to work the sugarcane fields. And in living there, I just wanted to say, just because I have the most experience in Hawaii, people can generalize about the Asian culture as a whole, but there's differences. First of all, obviously there's differences in the culture, but also in the features. A lot of Asians may look alike, but Chinese look different from Japanese. They look different from Vietnamese. They look different from Korean. They all look different. And when I lived in Hawaii, it was very easy for me to discern the difference because I've been exposed to them a lot. But being Puerto Rican and from California, the Mexicans in California don't want to be called Nicaraguan. The Nicaraguans don't want to be called El Salvadorian because that's not who they are. The Nicaraguans are Nicaraguans. The Mexicans are Mexicans. The El Salvadorians are El Salvadorians. It's the same with the Koreans, the Chinese, the Japanese, and even in Africa, the different countries, the African race as a whole, there are different parts of Africa, and the features are different for each culture. And so I'm talking about this because I want to bring in this whole galactic community, because these are the messages I've been getting this whole last week, was that Earth is a melting pot, not of all the cultures in the universe. Like most cultures in the universe have DNA here on our planet, and even African, you can't say Africans aren't even, black isn't even a race. Each part of Africa, let's say, so generally speaking, the Ethiopians have very high cheekbones. I always think of Iman, David Bowie's wife. The high cheekbones, tall, very small boned. And then you have different, even within the African culture, you have very different physical features. But because I know who David Bowie is and Iman, and I just can recall and look at her and just point out specific features. But each culture in Africa can represent a different being of love and light living in the universe. So there's not just a planet with all African or black folks. Each culture, Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, they all have their own planets, but they all came and integrated here on Earth. Same thing with the Asians, Japan, China, Vietnam, all these different Asian cultures, even though they're all integrated here on our planet, they have their own world. The Chinese and Japanese and the Vietnamese don't live on one planet in the universe. They all have their own worlds, and they have been brought together here on this planet. Same thing with the indigenous people, the Native Americans. You have all these different tribes. Although I feel, when I say that, I feel a little bit of a different root system culturally for the Native Americans in the United States, meaning even though there's different tribes, there's something different about how they evolved in the universe. And I don't have any specific information on that, so I'm not going to use any metaphors of saying that each tribe has their own planet, because I think in saying that I would be incorrect. I feel like in saying that I would be incorrect. But yeah. So you can say the same thing about the different races in Europe, from Iceland, for the countries that are more adapted to the cold, closer to the North Pole, like Iceland. As you move further down, you still have light-skinned people, but they are more adapted to, let's say, Spain, warmer weather of the Mediterranean. Um, and so these are different cultures from different planets. And this came into my energy field. I started getting information on this when I was watching Initiation with Matthias De Stefano, and he was talking about the 4 initial races that came to this world. And I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head. I apologize. But they all offered something to Earth, and they all brought something. And so although they came to this world to kind of start, seed, maybe garden Earth for life, they're not necessarily the genetic forefathers of this world. Our DNA, their DNA may be within our DNA, but there's so many other worlds in this universe that have been integrated into our DNA over how many millennia, I can't tell you, I don't have that number, but have been integrated into our DNA. So we are truly children of the stars, living on a planet together. Like, I wish I could even think of how many different races. I didn't even think to ask those questions, and that was another thing that came to me this last week. You need to start asking questions, and as you ask the questions, we'll answer them for you. And so since I had a lot of stuff happening this last 2 weeks, I was really distracted, and so I didn't get a lot of clear messages to help me with this. So maybe I'll do a part 2 next week, so I could give you that specific information. But we are truly children of the stars, integrated on this world, and we are our own race. We are our own people now. We are of Earth. We are Earthlings. We have DNA from all over the place, but we are of Earth. And I'm Puerto Rican. I'm not. So Puerto Ricans, the indigenous people of Puerto Rico were called Taino Indians. And so I have a lot of Native American blood, and I'm like, where's this Native American blood? Not even thinking that Puerto Rico, the island of Puerto Rico, is now part of the United States. So the indigenous people of Puerto Rico would be considered Native American, right? So I have a bunch of Native American blood, because the original people that evolved in Puerto Rico were called Taino Indians. But because of the slave trade and the Spaniards who brought them over, Puerto Ricans truly are no one race or one ethnic background. We are, as defined by the government in Puerto Rico, African, Taino Indian, and Spanish. So we're actually 3 different races. We're 3 different races. So that's what constitutes a Puerto Rican. But I don't go around saying I'm African or Spanish or Taino Indian. I say I'm Puerto Rican because I'm Puerto Rican. My grandparents came from Puerto Rico to Hawaii, right? So I'm not walking around this planet going, I'm Arcturan or I'm Pleiadian or whatever. I'm from Earth. I'm an Earthling. I'm from Earth. I'm from this world. This is who I am. We have the DNA of all these other worlds within us, but we are of Earth. This is our mother. Earth is our mother. Even if we were spacefaring, if we could fly and go to these different planets, I wouldn't be saying I'm going to go home to the Pleiades or Arcturus or any of the planets that we consider ourselves from, because I'm from Earth. I just have some Arcturan blood in me, just like I have African blood in me, and I have Spanish blood in me, and I have Taino blood in me. But truly, I'm Puerto Rican. And when I went to Puerto Rico, I knew I was Puerto Rican because the weather was, that island was all me. The food was me. Everything was me. I'm like, this is where my people are from. I could feel it in every part of me, even though I wasn't raised there. And I've only been there once, but I was very connected because everything about it resonated with me. But I am an Earthling. So my point being, it's really important to understand that this idea of race and segregation and better or worse is a construct of this world, just like time is a construct. There really is no past, present, or future. There's only right now, right? There's only this moment, and I did a video on that also. This idea of race is a construct created. We are all equal and unified in our humanity, in our love for God and our divine creator and each other and the life that we're living, our families, all of us, regardless of the color of our skin, love our children. We enjoy going out and socializing. We enjoy our vacations. Some of us are even lucky enough to love our jobs. So this unifies us, yet there's a lot of this ideology of segregation going on. So I guess in the end, what I would really like for people to think about is, how are we similar? Not how are we different? How are we the same? And build on that, because I don't believe this idea, this narrative that's been pushed forward. And I don't want to get into details, but I just need everybody to think about and understand that, and respect and honor the diversity of this planet, and not allow people to influence your perspective of the world around you, and accept people for who they are based on their actions and how they treat you with respect and kindness. See that first, understand that first, honor that first, and then drive from that place forward. Always listen to your intuition. And one of the things I tell people when I do readings is, if you're just awakening up and people are like, I have this happen and that happen, spiritual experiences, and I talk to them about their intuition, I say, most people have a very difficult time trusting their intuition. And what you want to do is, when you're making decisions in your life, listen to your body. Listen to what your body's telling you, your heart, your mind. Listen to it and make your decisions based on what that feeling is. Because for me, I'm like, if something is spot on, I feel it in my stomach. I feel it. Sometimes it's warmth over my body, or I'll feel like a positive feeling in my body. If I am very clairsentient, which is, I feel a lot. Everything comes through in emotions, or feelings. If you feel like nervous or agitated, I used to feel like I used to have butterflies in my stomach. That feeling of nervousness, that would always be, don't do that. That is a bad thing. Okay? So listen to that voice. When I get that feeling of don't do that, that's a bad thing, I pay attention to what my decision was. If I did it anyway, always, it would bite me in the butt. There were consequences. I always suffered because I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway. Okay? Or if something feels right and you do it, watch for the response. What happens? What are the consequences of that choice? Was it a good outcome? So what happens is, you'll be able to start trusting that part of yourself, that intuition, if you are honest with yourself. Okay? The other really important part of listening to your intuition is, you cannot impose your will on the messages that you receive. That's from the higher self. I tell people that your intuition is your higher self. That's that part of you that's still in the ether with God, or that still has infinite knowledge, that knows what your path is in this life, trying to help you. So it's telling you what you need to do. It's guiding you, right? You are guiding you. But if you impose your will, this physical person, like, oh, I like that guy, I want that guy, but every part of you saying that is a bad decision, and you do it anyway because that's what you want, that would be imposing your will. So if you impose your will on the guidance, then you are going to make the wrong decision, because you're doing what you want to do, not what you're guided to do. Do you understand that? So it's very important that's where balance comes in. Clear, centered, and balanced energy. You receive that message and you honor it, and then you respond accordingly. And I think I've said this before, but I'm not sure, but I don't do anything mind altering. I don't take medicine that can in any way, like codeine, that could influence me. I used to drink a lot of coffee, but I would never drink coffee before a reading or before. When I was receiving messages, if I had been drinking coffee, I would wait and then later rechannel the message and see if I was interpreting it the proper way. But I very rarely drink coffee. I do still drink coffee, but even caffeine will alter the message because it alters your mind, it alters your consciousness. So I don't do anything that alters my consciousness because it will affect how I perceive and translate those messages. And when I do readings for people, I say that doesn't mean I'm telling you don't go have a beer, don't have wine or whatever. That's my choice. You don't have to do that. But when you are having a drink or whatever you're doing, don't make decisions. Don't bring up important topics or subjects that need to be discussed. Don't make important decisions, because that is when your consciousness can be influenced in a positive or a negative way. Your ego can come in and take over, or that's when your consciousness is affected, your aura is weakened, and your aura is your body's energetic protection. So if your aura is weak, that allows for that negative polarity, that negative energy to come in and start influencing you in a negative way. And it's not going to be hammered over your head. Normally it's going to be very subtle and very manipulative. And so it's very important to always have that clear, centered, balanced energy when you're receiving messages and interpreting those messages, whether it be channeling or whether it be listening to your intuition. So those are just some things I want to help you kind of start with listening to your intuition, receiving messages, and then also honoring that part of you. And so I'm going to take a minute and again clear, center, and balance my energy. And I would really, at the beginning of the video, I had an energy come through that wanted to expand on this idea of race. And like I said, I had a lot of stuff going on over the last 2 weeks, so I didn't really keep myself open channel, because I was allowing the frustration to come in, which was blocking the messages. So I'm going to sit here for a minute and clear, center, and balance my energy and bring this energy in and start communicating with it. Okay, so just give me a minute. So this energy that came in is a reptile. It's a reptilian energy, but it's of Earth and it lives in the inner Earth. And I was debating whether or not I was going to sit here and engage it to get more information before I started talking. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to engage this energy and tell you what the communications are, so you can kind of see what it's like for me when I first engage an entity, a being of love and light, when they first approach me. And so he hasn't given me a name yet. It's a masculine energy, a male, and when he presented himself, it was from the side, and it was I could see his eye and his head. It's very lizard like in visual when I see it, but its face is not very long, so it's much more like a lizard than like an alligator or a crocodile, but comes out a little bit. And the first thing I wanted to ask, because I thought it would be more about the races, and so this energy said, what he said to me was, we are of the reptilian race that was here at the beginning, the first 4 races that were here at the beginning, that Matthias De Stefano talks about in his 2nd season, and I'll do the research on that to get the name that he gives them, because I can't remember off the top of my head. But he says they are that is their original some of their original DNA comes from them. And we also carry some of that DNA. So these are our cousins. They live in the inner earth. That's what he said to me. Oh, his eye was yellow. Also, his eye's yellow. It's dark all around him, so I can't see, or he's not letting me see where he is. But he is telling me he's in the earth, in the inner earth. He's telling me also that they did come into inner earth during the meteor, or what we think is a meteor that hit the earth that created the extinction of the dinosaur. But he's also saying there's a relationship with the raptors, and everybody. We know a lot about the raptors because they're smaller, they're very stealth-like, they hunt in packs, and they were very intelligent. So I think my son maybe been really interested in them, and that's why I have more information about them. But he's saying they're related to them, so and he's saying we're very intelligent. And now I didn't imply that he wasn't intelligent. I know it. I can feel that he's intelligent. But I think he's wanting me to say we are very intelligent beings. We are conscious and aware, just like you are. We have families like you have. And we live here on Earth. One of the things that came through first was he gave a warning. He said, do not come into our area. Do not come into our area. They will defend their people with everything they have. We are not allowed in their area of the inner earth. And I know that through the secret space program, there have been protocols for humans to go in there who are involved in the secret space program. There's protocols to engage them physically, but he is giving a warning, and I think that might be for the people of Earth that are on the Earth who may be going into inner Earth, and also to this cabal energy who is losing power on the Earth. So they had the moon base, and they had all that stuff, and they were in control. And at the beginning of this change, this transition, they thought they had everything under control, and they would maintain control of Earth. And that is falling to the wayside. That's not happening. And I've discussed this in a number of videos. But at this point, really, the sky's falling for them. And so they're kind of starting to figure out where they're going to go and what they're going to do to try to sustain this lifestyle that they're losing, right? And so this message is he's telling me is they need to stay out of our space, because if they come into their space, there will be issues. He just said there will be carnage. So this is a message for, and I know a lot of people that aren't, there's a lot of people that watch the videos, even though they show, the views show like 20. I know there's a lot of people watching them. So the message for this negative polarity, this cabal, this energy is to stay out of their space. These people, they're not barbaric. They're protecting their families, and they have technology. And that's for us humans to understand. I think the secret space program and all these people who pretend like they don't exist, they know. But for us to know, they have holograms and stuff to keep us out of their space. But there are ways that there is people who have technology that can bypass that. And so this is a warning: stay out. And when I had the name popped into my head, I started thinking about, well, what should I call him? And I always think name isn't important. Name isn't an issue. It's the energy I feel, and I don't feel any fear of this energy. Again, very similar to the Alpha Draco, with integrity, a lot of integrity. But their priority is to protect their family, protect their people, protect their way of life. And so we have no place in their world. And because they live on Earth with us, we don't have a right to go in there. We have no right to disrupt their lifestyle. And so when I thought name, he said friend. That's what he said. He said, I am your friend. I'm just warning you. Sorry. And so he's giving me information. Sorry. He's giving me information on the other beings that live on the inner earth. So these are beings that are not of the surface. So there's some surface beings of our world that cabal energy who are trying to go into the earth, who have spaces in the earth that they're trying to retreat to try to maintain their society the way they want it to be, because they're not going to get the earth. They're not going to live on the surface. They're not going to be able to maintain the lifestyle that they've had for centuries on the surface. And so they're going into the earth. And for those of you who are not aware of what goes on in the inner earth, earth is like a honeycomb, and there are huge caverns. I mean, like the size of states, not just, cities, but the size of like Texas that these people can live in. And so they're looking for places to live. This energy, my friend, is telling me that the other beings that have lived in the inner earth for centuries, millennia, are protecting the inner earth, the heart of Mother Earth. There's also a specific being that stays in the center of at the core of Earth, that protects Earth, that doesn't come out, that doesn't engage other beings, but does exist. But my friend is saying all these other beings that live in the inner earth are protecting the heart of Mother Earth. So the fact that this energy, this cabal energy, is trying to go into the earth, they're not worried about it as long as they don't come into their space. The other energy, my friend is also saying that Mother Earth will deal with the negative polarity that's trying to move into the earth, because once this planet transcends and its vibration increases, energies of a lower vibration will not be able to exist on this world, in this world. And so how that is dealt with is up to Mother Earth. We are her children, and she will deal with her children as she sees fit. So he's saying, don't worry, but he wanted to send out the warning to these energies that they are to stay out of their space. And so as I engage this energy, he's showing me their families. He's showing me the children playing. He's showing me court systems. He's showing me judicial systems. He's showing me their structure of their society. Very loving, like us. They have families. They have businesses. They have homes. It's not run like businesses though. They're more like clans, and they do trade. It's more trade. They don't use money. They don't have a currency system. They do have structure though. They have leaders, and like I said, judicial system. They do have military. They have schools. But they're different because the way their brain develops and their physiology develops is different than ours. So it's structured differently. But they still have like a learning institution. They still have technology. They still have places to buy their food, and social gatherings and events. He's saying the music is different, but we have sounds that we find appealing and calming. Water is a very important part of their society. But we do not like unwelcome visitors. We do not like surprise visits. We will not engage anybody who has not first honored our protocols, our lifestyle, our way of life, our community, our people, our culture, our way. So first there needs to be an interaction to introduce your culture to my culture through our ambassadors before any further engagement will take place. You are not allowed in our space. You are not allowed around our children. You have proven yourselves to be very aggressive and hostile to the unknown. We only defend when necessary. We do not seek confrontation, but we will protect our children, our people, our community, our culture, our way of life. You have no right in our space. Lorene, you are welcome to come. You can engage us telepathically. We will respond. We know your energy. We know your purpose. We trust you. You carry our integrity. Now he's showing me the light, and he's showing me the sky, how they light up their space. There is what I see as sunlight. I would describe it as sunlight, but also much of what I see is what I would equate with when you go into a room and there's a black light. And I'm not sure. So there's an outdoor energy vibe where they can go and feel like they're outside. But there's a lot of spaces that have more of a darker, I don't want to say energy, it's not a dark energy. It is a more calm, cool, den-like, very den-like feel, like a denning animal. Just a place to go to be centered and calm. And so there's a feminine energy coming in now, a female, and he's saying it's his wife. And she's just nodding and honoring my presence. And he's showing me his children. 2, 3, but one is white. One is white, like, based on him showing me his skin and how dark it was, I would say albino, but I don't know, because I can't see all the, I don't see a group of people, so I don't know if there's different beings have different colors within this culture. But one of his children looks, I would say albino, but the eye's not pink. The eye's yellow. So traditionally, albino, there's no pigment in the skin, and so there's no pigment in the iris of the eye, and therefore the iris is pink. But this isn't truly an albino being, but because the eye is yellow, like his father's. And the mother saying, no, he's not albino. And so what she's doing is she's showing me their families and their lifestyle and what they're protecting. So what they're doing right now, what this my friend is doing, is he's setting a boundary. He just wants me to convey the message and set that boundary that you are not allowed here. That's it. Beings on the surface are, and those trying to come into the inner earth, you are not allowed in our space. That's the boundary. You must follow the proper protocols to enter our space. And this is a hard boundary right now during transcendence because of all the stuff that's going on top of the earth. There are, okay, so he's confirming right now with me, there are wars going on that we don't see. The one in space for the moon is over, but within the earth, for this ancient technology, like in Antarctica, they're fighting for that. And because they're using technology that we're technically not supposed to have, we don't know about it. Okay, so they're using spacecraft, weapons, and so on that technically don't exist, and therefore we humans who have been living on the surface of Earth aren't aware of it. They can't tell us, because then the cat would be out of the bag. They'd have to tell us that they've had spaceships forever and they've had all these weapons and all this technology that they've been depriving us from, and only allowing this elite group of people access to. So what he's saying is and so his hard line is because there are things going on in the earth that people on the earth are not aware of. And so they have to have a hard line and say, you are not allowed in our space. And so if need be, they will engage in these battles to protect their people. We don't want that. Because they're better equipped than us. He's saying, you don't know, we don't allow you to know, but we will and can defend readily and heavily our people. And he tells me, don't you worry. So, and I think when I say that, when he says that to me, I know that's true, because I maintain clear, centered, balanced energy, and I trust implicitly in my divine creator, in God, I have faith and trust, and I know as long as I stay on my path and I project goodness and kindness and come from a place of balance, that I am always protected. I know that. And when you know that, and when you can trust in that, you will be equally protected. I'm not special and different in any way than anybody else, but I have opened myself up to trust and honor and have faith in God, our divine creator. And in doing so, I open myself to up to protection and abundance. And so he's telling me, and he's affirming, yes, you are protected. And it's not because he's not going to hurt me. He's telling me that I'm protected because he knows my energy field and how I carry my energy, my integrity, and my connection to my divine creator. And so in a way, he's guiding me. He's acting like a spiritual guide and telling me, yes, you're on the right path. Yes, you are protected. So I'm thanking him. I'm thanking him for that affirmation, and I'm thanking him for his support and his words. Okay. So he and his wife are saying goodbye, and his children have left. And so I'm just gonna end by saying that's the first time I've engaged that energy, and that is the interaction. That is me just telling you what I'm communicating with him. There was some direct communication where I was just saying what he was saying to me, but that is essentially how the telepathic communications come in. Normally I'll have a vision, I'll see somebody, or I'll be talking, and then I'll realize I'm talking to somebody, and then I'll start asking questions for more specific information. But anyway, that's it. And so thank you so much. Have a good weekend.